Hi there, I'm Jordan, and today we're going to learn one of the most iconic guitar intros of possibly all time, Back in Black. Let's get into it. So the first portion of this intro are going to be chords. And so these are going to be power chords, meaning that they're going to have 3 notes. Okay? And so on the annotations, it's going to say a letter, which is going to be the chord name, and then 5. So whenever you see that, that's going to tell you, oh, this is a power chord. Okay? So the first power chord that we have is going to be E power chord, or the E5. So it's going to sound like this. Okay, now how to play this is you're going to be playing open low E, meaning you will not be fretting it, just going to be open. The next note is going to be 2nd fret A using your 2nd finger. Now when you're fretting with chords, make sure that you fret as close to these little metal bars, also known as frets, as close to them as possible, okay? Without getting on top of them, because if you get on top of them, it's going to sound like this, which doesn't sound super clear when you compare it to that. Okay, so you're going to get as close to that metal bar, the fret, as possible, while also arching your fingers to make sure that you don't mute any strings that you want to also have ring out. Okay, so again, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret A. Next up, we have our 3rd finger, going to be fretting the 2nd fret D. So all together, like so. Okay? Our next chord is going to be a D power chord, or a D5. So now this consists of open D, then 2nd fret G, fretted by our 1st finger, followed up with 3rd fret B, fretted with our 3rd finger. So all together we have like so. Now, if your chord doesn't sound as clear as you'd like it to, a way that I diagnose my chords is by playing each note individually while also fretting the entire chord. So if I had a weird, something weird's going on, right? So what I would do is I'd play each note individually, and then if there's a weird note, I would know immediately what's going on, right? So, oh, if you see, my 1st finger here is a little too far up on the fret. So bring it back, sounding good again, okay? So we got our first 2 chords down. Let's get on to our last one. It's going to be our A power chord, or A5. Now this chord is pretty much exactly the same as our E5, except moved down or up 1 string. Okay? Like so. So we have our open A. Then we have our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret D. And then you have our 3rd finger on the 2nd fret G. So all together it'll sound like this. Now you might be asking yourself, Jordan, I swear you didn't play it like that during the actual riff portion just a couple seconds ago. And you would be right. I played it like this, with 1 finger doing what we call a bar, meaning we use 1 finger to fret 2 or more strings out at the same time. Now I do that because it's an easier transition for me, and you are more than welcome to try that as well. And all we do is we make our finger flat like this, and then I push down using all my strength on the fingers I want to fret, or on the strings that I want to fret rather. And so those would be D and G on the 2nd fret. So you're more than welcome to try that. And if you can, great. Otherwise, there is nothing wrong with fretting it like this, using 2 fingers. Okay? So, in terms of what do we do with those chords, the E power chord we play once, downstroked, bam, powerful, and then we mute with our palm. So right after I hit that chord, I then bring my palm on the strings to cut them off, to make them not ring out anymore. So then it's short and clear. Okay? So I'd recommend you to try that a couple times just to make sure you get into practice. Just like that. The next chord is the D power chord, and we're going to play that a couple times. 1, 2, 3. Now, the picking pattern that I use is down, up, down. Okay? Down, up, down. And then, just like that E power chord, I mute it right after I'm done with that 3rd stroke. Just like that. Down, up, down, mute. Okay? Now, the next chord is A, and it's going to be pretty much the same strumming pattern as that D power chord. Okay? Down, up, down, mute. So, it will sound like this. Okay, again. And at the tempo, like so. Okay? Practice that a couple times, and then we'll get on to our next portion, which is a pentatonic lick on the high strings. So let's get into it. It's going to sound like this. Now, it may sound daunting at first, but I know you can do it. So, we're starting off on that high E string, 3rd fret. Now, he pulls it off to the open high E. Now, a pull off is where you hit the string once, and then you flick off to then make the other note or notes ring out after you pick. So you only pick once, but then at least 2 or more notes are then played after that. Okay? So, or one more note after that, I suppose. So, it'll be like that. Now, if that is too tricky for you, you are totally welcome to just pick it out. And so you'd be alternate picking those because it is kind of fast, which means you will pick down and then up, down, up, down, up. Okay? So that would sound like this. Now, a trick to make sure that you can play as fast as needed for this song is when you are moving that 3rd finger, you want to make sure that your finger is close to the fretboard as possible. Obviously, you're not going to be touching the fretboard or the string, but you want to make sure that your finger doesn't just like fly off like that, right? Because then it'll take time for you to bring that finger back, and that's lost time that you could be playing other notes. So, do you see how my finger doesn't fly off into the next state, but it just kind of stays a little close, just to make sure that it can return back to go to the B string, which is our next note. So we have, very similar to the previous 2-note pattern, we have 3rd fret B string pulled off to open B, or if you choose, pick them. Okay? So that part would sound like this. All together, E and B. Or if you pick them. Okay? Practice that a couple times so you can get it smooth, and then we'll move on to the next portion of this section, which is the bending part. So now this part's a little bit tricky. It is, you could use either, whichever finger is the strongest for you. So I'll be using my 3rd finger. And so whatever finger's strongest, on the 2nd fret G. And we're going to be doing a whole step bend. And now what a whole step is, it is a measure of distance between notes. And so a whole step on guitar is going to be 2 frets. So when someone says, oh, do a whole step bend, that means you're going to be moving the note 2 frets up from wherever you started. So since we are starting on this 2nd fret, we do 3, 4, 2 frets. Should be like that. So our bend should sound like this. Okay? And so we'll bend like so. Okay? So we're going to be bending up and then bringing it down again. So it'll sound like this. Again. Okay? And then once we get that bend all nice and neat, we are pulling off, or if you choose to pick it, to the G, open G. Like so. So it'll sound like this. If you were to pick it, or if you were to pull off, it would sound like this. Like so. Okay? So that whole section, slow, will sound like this. Okay? Now that portion is tricky. So if you don't get it like the first time, or even the first 5 times, totally okay. Just keep practicing it and you will get better, I promise. Okay? So the next portion of this intro is going to be a repeat of those chords. So again, same exact thing that we learned at the beginning of this lesson. Okay? So I won't go over it again. Just repeat that and you'll be golden. Now this next part is a little bit tricky just because you have to stretch out your hands, but with practice you'll be able to do it easily. So we start off with our first finger on the 2nd fret A string, like so. Then we play 4th fret E string using our 3rd finger. Okay. Next up, 1st finger on the A string. Then 5th fret low E. Then, as you might guess, 1st finger, 2nd fret A. Okay. And then we're stretching. Our pinky, our 4th finger, is going to be playing that 6th fret E. Okay? And then from there, we are playing 7th fret low E twice using our pinky. On that second time we play that 7th fret low E, you're going to slide down like so. So some tips on the slide. You're going to want to keep pressure on the string and just drag it down. Now, I must warn you, it might feel weird, but it's okay. It's normal. Do it a couple times and you'll get used to it, okay? So that whole section will sound like this. Now it is important to note that I keep my palm basically parallel with the ground. And that helps me out with stretching my hand because I have small hands. So it's pretty important for me to be able to have a good technique base. And so I keep my palm up towards the sky and I stretch my fingers out as much as I can. Like so, okay? So, the whole intro, I'll play it one last time, once slow, then the next time at tempo, okay? And then now at full tempo. Hope you've enjoyed learning one of the most iconic guitar intros of all time.